Live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited to be able to do this for the second year in a row. Last year, we had moments like this. This year, we have Where the Sun Rises, written by Ana Gomez and Kristoffer Polaha. I'm going to do a little bio read really quick. Just for those of you who may not know, Ana Gomez is an award-winning author and the Global Chief Financial Officer for Mischief and No Fixed Address, a consolidated group of advertising agencies. She was recently selected for the 2020 Her Rose, love that, Women Role Model Executives list, which recognizes 100 women making strides to increase gender diversity in business, as well as being an advocate for racial and gender equality in both the workplace and the world. Ana is known for delighting audiences with stories about real life, flawed characters, and the saving grace of unconditional love. Kristoffer Polaha is an actor, author, and screenwriter. You might know him from his starring role in the critically acclaimed series Life Unexpected, multi-season roles on AMC's Mad Men and Castle, or from appearing in Jurassic World, Dominion, and in Wonder Woman 1984. With Ana, and also an amazing award-winning show called North Shore, which aired in 2004, if you haven't seen it. With Ana, he co-authored the first From Kona with Love book, Moments Like This. And we're glad to have him here today to celebrate the second book, Where the Sun Rises. Everybody, please welcome in your comments both Ana and Chris. Yay! I'm Nikki DeLoach. I am your host, and I'm so proud to be able to be here. You guys, you did it again!
Yeah. Crazy, right?
You did it again!
I love that you said second year in a row. When you said that, it kind of gave me chills because I was like, wow, we've actually managed to do something.
Yeah.
Not once, but twice, and in 2 years in a row. Like, that's kind of impressive, if I may say.
That's where I wanted to start, to be honest, because, you know, a lot of people on with us today. First of all, thank you guys so much for joining. Hi, Geraldine. Hi, Rhonda. You know, I look at writing a novel as like such a daunting task. I mean, I'm a screenwriter. I write scripts, but a novel is like Mount Kilimanjaro to me, right? You put out one, and then you put out another in the next year. So my first question is, did you already know what this story was when you wrote the first one, or did you figure that out after you wrote the first story, the first book?
You want to take that one, Ana?
You take it. I'll jump in.
Okay, Nikki. So what we did was, so for moments like this, I came into the story about 8 chapters in. So Ana had begun Andie's story, and she knew that Andie was going to go to Appy's coffee shop on Oahu, and she knew that she was going to meet a guy and that there was going to be a conflict of interest. And then when I entered the picture, Warren became this, you know, like I sort of took on Warren. I was like, oh, I'll handle this guy and you handle, and we'll start telling the story. And we knew that we wanted to create a blueprint for the entire Kona universe. And so we knew that stories 2, 3, 4, and 5, books 2, 3, 4, and 5, were going to come from moments like this. And everybody who's in moments like this will get a book or will get featured. Not everybody, but you'll meet everybody in the future stories in moments like this. So when we were writing moments, sweet little Maele just popped off the page for some reason, and it was something that Ana had written, and I was just attracted to her. I was like, who is this? Like, I kind of want to get to know this character a little more. And then I had done something with Adam and wrote this scene when they're on the couch, and then when Ana read it, she was like, I really like Adam. She's like, I want to see these two. And I was like, let's write a book about them. So while we were writing moments, we started to like very quick decide who books 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be about, and we mapped out the whole thing, and we're sticking true to the plan. It's been a blueprint, and it's got legs. So obviously book 2 is about Maele and Adam, and we have book 3, and it's begun. We're already into book 3, and you know, we know where book 4 is going, and we have book 5, which will be, I think book 5 will be the saddest one to really tackle, because It'll be, you know.
Who dies? Never mind. Don't tell us.
How did you know?
No.
Who do you think dies? Is it Warren? Is it Adam?
I don't know. Adam is barely holding on, so it could definitely be Adam. That's incredible, and I think it's so cool that you build a world that everybody can continue to be a part of. I also would like to know, how long did it actually take you to write this? So you come off of moments like this, and then how soon after did you just start getting back after it?
Are you with us still, Anna?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, so Anna, how soon after you finished moments like this did you jump into the next book?
I think we took about at most like a month off, I think. And then we just jumped in. I think it's because having Adam and Maele as the main characters, it was so organic for us that we wanted to just keep going. Like, we had this idea and we just wanted to write about it. But we took a few weeks off and then we just started. And I think it took us a longer time to write Sunrise.
Well, that was something I wanted to explore, because I know this as a writer, right, is every time I go to like put my fingers on the keys and I open that final draft. So for those of you, final draft it's essentially an application that you use for screenwriting. So, and every single time I go to open it and I go to put my fingers to the keys, I get this like juxtaposition of feelings. Number one, I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I forgot everything I know. That's number one. And then the second is I get so excited because I know I am about to create something new, and also I will do it just like I did it last time. But it's getting over that initial like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do this. I'm gonna fail. So then like push yourself through. So I guess my question is, how was this process different than the first, or was it? And I want you both to answer that. So I'll start with you, Chris, and then Anna, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I feel like it's the blank page syndrome. It's like when you're looking at, so I write in pages, and when you have that little cursor at the top of the blank page and you have an entire story to start telling, one of the things that Anna and I do is that we spitball and we sort of track the major beats of the story. So we knew that we were going to have Anna and Maele meet at Warren and Andie's wedding. We knew that, and as we were writing, we were like, what if we do this thing where we mirror, like where there's the first 2 weeks and we're telling each story. Then Anna came up with this amazing idea. She was like, I'm going to juxtapose his intense wealth with her poverty, and we're going to highlight classism that way.
Yeah.
And then we knew.
Yeah.
What's that?
The socioeconomic.
Yeah, the disparities between those two. And then we knew that this necklace was going to play an integral part, and we knew that from moments. So we have her play with it. We have her rubber neck in moments. We knew all of the beats, and then we kind of knew how it was going to end, but we didn't know exactly how we were going to tell that part of it. And so and what's crazy is the way that Anna and I work is I'll write a chapter, and then, okay, so in all honesty, there was stuff that I went off and wrote. There was stuff that she went off and wrote. And then when those stories collide, it was 100% dependent on, I would write a chapter, then she would write a chapter. I would write a chapter, then she would write a chapter. And we had to wait. And sometimes she was the voice of Adam, and sometimes I was the voice of Maele. And what's kind of amazing is like you cannot tell who picks up where. And it's a magical collaboration that it's hard to talk about because you don't want to like, it's hard to like, it's kismet. It works. It worked on the first Zoom call and it works today, and it's kind of inexplicable. And then, and 3 is happening differently. And to answer your question, I wrote all my moment stuff in the quarantine. Sorry, you can see my family loading up now. We're in the car right now. Like all of the quarantine for Jurassic World. I know. So like literally, I'm going to come this way. All of the moments like this was written during quarantine for Jurassic World. And then I had 2 quarantines for 2 Hallmark movies where I was locked 15 days in a room, and one was for a Christmas movie that I did, and one was for a mystery. And I wrote all of my where the sunrise is in quarantine.
Great.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like we have just like 15 days, an hour.
Yeah. And so, Anna, for you, how is this book different, or might not have been? I mean, you've written so many books at this point in time, but how is this experience maybe possibly different than the first?
Home and drop me off.
It was really different for me. It was a true 50-50 collaboration. It was going off his ideas and finishing his sentences. And then, life happened in 2021. We had so much going on. And so there were times when I couldn't write a word, or there were times when he was too busy and he couldn't write. And we would just pick up where we leave off, which is, again, Chris is saying, it was pretty amazing how it was just really seamless, how we would finish each other's chapters if one wasn't able to go in. So much so that we did start as he's Adam, I'm Maele, and he would write a scene, and then I would kind of write the opposite of the scene and kind of make it like from her point of view. Yes. But then towards the end, it just kind of melded. Like I was writing his chapters and he was writing my chapters. So it was different in the sense that, Nikki, I think when we wrote Moments, we were both stuck at home or quarantined or somewhere. This time, life was slowly getting back to normal. We had stuff going on with the families, and it was just harder. It was a lot harder.
Yes. Life is definitely harder. I think we're all trying to. It's so funny because everybody's like, I haven't read it yet, so don't give too much away, but I want to hear, so I'm going to be careful with what I share, right? For those who haven't read it yet, but we'll still share enough and talk about it enough just so nobody freaks out. I won't give too much away. I'm also trying to reacclimate to life now, where you're going out again into the world. Things are happening. I was in New York last week for a whole press thing, and my body is and my brain is trying to catch up to a pace that I used to live at all the time. And I find myself going, I can't believe that this was my life pre-pandemic. And because we had that downtime to just really slow everything down, I would guess that this was a lot harder because there were just so many more elements that you were up against in terms of just schedule, right?
Yeah. Chris and I were just talking about that. Like
That's right.
So exhausted. We just went to 2 events and we're just like
exhausted. I know. I have a birthday to go to tonight, and when they said 8 p.m., I was like, 8 p.m.?
It's amazing that I think about the idea that producers paid for me to live in a room for 15 days. It was such an unbelievable blessing. I mean, there's no other only word for it, because no other world am I going to get away from wife and kids and focus on a task and have that, because I need quiet to write. I need to be able to focus. My third eye starts to light up, and it's like a movie and I see it. I'm just trying to keep up with what I'm seeing. The pandemic was actually very helpful. And now that we're out of it and out of quarantine, like I'm having to be very disciplined about waking up in the morning early before everybody else gets up and spend a good hour. And I have a goal of like 2,000 to 3,000 words. If I can hammer out 2,000 words a day, I'm good. Whoa. Otherwise I feel like, and I don't feel good if I don't write. It's weird. I'm like, I didn't write today. And
I don't know if you guys experience. No, it's true. The best advice I was ever given when I first started writing by my writing teacher was butt in chair. Just put your booty in the chair. 90% of what you might put on that page, you might get rid of the next day, but you might have 10% that you hold on to that was gold. Or you might write and 80% of what you wrote was gold. You don't know. It just depends on the day and the flow and but if you wait around to be inspired to write, you're never going to get it finished. You have to put your booty in that chair, in that seat, and you just have to like just write, whether it's good or not. You just have to put the words on the page. It was the best piece of advice I was ever given, because it takes the pressure off of like having to sit down and write something profound. I just need to sit down and write and trust and have faith that it will come and it will get there. So that's such a good point. I actually have two questions that I don't want to miss already. So you guys, please put any questions that you may have for both Chris and Anna in the box, and I will catch them and make sure that they get answered. The first one is for you, Anna. I think this was from Rita. How difficult is it to go between these books that you're writing with Chris and the books that you write on your own? That's a good question.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for the question, and thanks for always being around. I don't think there's a big difference. I don't think there's a big difference. I think I write according to how I feel and what I experience, and whether it's a book with Chris or whether it's a book on my own, the inspiration comes from the same places.
And where does that inspiration come from, if you don't mind me asking?
You know what? It's everyday stuff. Everyday stuff. That's how I thrive. I thrive on watching other humans on the train, on the plane, in the airport, in the lounge. I just watch people and kind of get, make up stuff in my head, or things I experienced, emotions I experience most of the time. I just write about it. So if I'm writing a book with Chris, then all those emotions get poured into that book. I can't write two books at the same time. That's one thing. So I can't. So I know a lot of authors that shift, like they're writing this, they're writing that, and I can't do that. So if I'm focused on the series, I have to focus on that series and finish it. Yeah. So
I think that would be so difficult to split your brain and your heart into two places.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. A lot of authors do it. They work on 3 books at the same time, or
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that. That would seem impossible to me too.
Yes. Also, another question: what are the most challenging? I think this was from Geraldine. What are the most challenging aspects of writing these books?
Time. I don't know about Chris.
It's truly this, Where the Sun Rises, it was such an interesting thing because we were so codependent on one another to write that there was a certain moment where Anna's entire career shifted. Like, she literally left one company and started working for another company, and she was dealing with all of the machinations of what a huge, massive career change implies, personnel, all of the things that it involves. And she's trying to like juggle that. And then meanwhile, I'm bouncing around. And Nikki, how hard it is as actors, because when you work and it's wonderful. And when you don't, you're like, when's the next job going to come? And then, it's been a grind, I think, for both of us. I think it's been, the last couple of years have been particularly, it's weird that the actual year of 2020 was a kind of a peaceful year for us. And it was a quiet year. And we, God willing, we both were healthy. Our families stayed healthy. So for us, 2020 was this very restful time to just sort of circle the wagons and spend time at home. And I mean, this book is 100% a byproduct of the pandemic, of the fact that I was home. Zoom started, and then all of a sudden 2021 started up, and it got really difficult. And this year has even been harder. I mean, I think for Anna, 2021 was harder. For me, this year has been a lot harder. And if you don't have the accountability of a writing partner to say, hey, what are you working on right now? How's the chapter coming? Honestly, I don't think these books would have gotten written. If it were on my own, I would have kind of been like, this is just another pipe dream. I think I'm done. So because I had accountability, you know what that's like.
Yes, I have a writing partner too, Anna, so I get that.
Yeah. And I think also just being realistic, the 3 of us, even you, Nikki, I think we lost loved ones in 2021.
We did. I lost my dad last year.
I did too. So and Chris lost his grandma. So like it was tough. It was tough for us to stay the course. I
have a question for you, Anna. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And I am too for you.
Have you passed the 1 year anniversary yet? Yeah, I just passed it in July, and it's rough. There's no way around it. It's so brutal. It did give me, it did shift me, and I'll share this with you because I don't know if you experienced this at all, but I knew I was in a little bit of a trouble with my grief when months leading up to that first anniversary. So my writing partner and I had two scripts that we had a script we were writing, another script we were in outline on, and another script a couple that we were in treatments on. So we had, 4 different projects in the period of 3 months that we were writing on, all of them in some various ways. I'm the ideas person in our, relationship. I was fresh out. All of a sudden, a couple months leading up to that anniversary, I just got so stuck. I had no ideas. I didn't know how, I couldn't sit down and write. And I knew I was in trouble emotionally because when I can't create, something has really gone wrong.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
that is usually my source of like how I move through things, how I heal through things, but I was so stuck in my grief. And after that first anniversary, and I experienced another tragic event via a friend of mine with her child. And I just woke up after the anniversary of my dad's passing and just promised my dad that I was going to do everything in my power to find the joy, to celebrate, to put one foot in front of the other, and live this life to the best of my ability, the way he would want me to. And it shifted everything. Did you experience in this last year of writing, did you ever experience a moment where you got stuck in your creative self because your grieving self was just needed to crawl under the covers and just go to sleep for a long time?
Yeah. And mine is more recent. So it's actually, I don't want to belabor this, but Chris knows, like last year was 21, it was father-in-law. This 22 was my dad. So I'm still kind of in it. Like I'm still stuck. And I think the one of the things I so appreciate about Chris as a person and Chris as a writing partner is that he just picks up. So he's picked up book 3. He started it. He's 20,000 words into it.
Amazing, Chris.
And there's no pressure on me. Like he doesn't put any pressure on me. He's just gonna keep going, and that that's the beauty of this partnership, I think, too. That we had in book 1, it manifested itself more in book 2, just because we were so dependent on what we were doing, and then it is again for book 3. So I'm still in that stage. So
yeah, well, I will be thinking on you, and I will add you to my prayer list, and I will purposely send out love to you every single day because it is so rough. And I think the beautiful thing about what you said, and the beautiful thing about partnership and also humanity, I found, and Geraldine, who's on here, she knows I've talked about it so often, but when you don't have to carry something on your own, including a book, my partner did the same for me. She picked up and just carried it forward when I really was not able to. And I just think that there's something this is a small partnership, but it speaks to the larger conversation about not having to carry anything alone. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important for everyone to hear that.
Yeah, and I think we go back to the book, and that a lot of that shows in the book that we wrote, in stories we wrote. Because as much as people support you, there's also a lot of people that use that against you.
Right.
So it goes both ways,
It does. And I do love, you guys hit on some really tough topics in this book. Trauma, for one, and how Maele had such a traumatic life and death experience. I won't give the details for those of you who haven't read it, but a life and death traumatic experience. And she didn't just go through that by herself. It was her family. Her mother is trying to let go, trying to figure out how she moves forward in the trauma, the people around her. You touch on addiction, obviously faith. But these are very serious things that I think so many people, if you're not personally dealing with it, somebody you know or love is dealing with it. So I appreciate the realness and the rawness for which you brought to those stories, because, you know, for me, going through what I've gone through with my son, who's had 3 heart surgeries, and my dad and his illness, there is so much trauma there. And I think the one thing that we haven't discussed enough as a society, and we're starting to a little bit more, but one thing I think why stories help us, why they can be healing, is you can talk about a topic like trauma through the lens of characters like Maele and Adam, and it's a story that you're telling, right? But the person reading it on the other side, who's experiencing that in their own life, is being touched and healed, and you're through that story. And also you're offering a bit of a blueprint for how we can move through these really tough things. Why did you choose to give Maele this experience? Did you want specifically to write about trauma, or did it just feel, or was that something that was already preset in the book before?
I mean, we knew that Maele had broken her neck in moments, and so we added this little line where she does something and she reaches back instinctively, and the little blue diamond was a part of, you know, and so we knew that we had to. And you know, Nikki, you know Brooke, and
I know.
when Brooke broke her neck,
Yeah.
like that to me was, there was this, you know, beautiful girl in the very throes of the height of her life, and she snapped her neck on the bottom of a pool, and had it gone wrong, she would have been in a wheelchair. And I think as a kid,
Or
there was
died,
this football
honestly.
player, yeah, or died, yeah. And there was this kid, he was a football player at at Reno High, and we have this beautiful lake up in Reno called Lake Tahoe, and he dove off a pier, he cracked his neck, and I used to see him at church every Sunday in a wheelchair. And it was just a personal fear of mine. And I think that if any kid goes surfing, all the parents on the beach are like, oh, I hope they don't break their neck. I hope they don't break their neck. Like, it happens all
You're
the
holding
time.
your breath.
Yeah, it literally just, it's one of those things where we knew that Maele was going to have a broken neck, and the idea that, and we knew that Adam was going to have a drug addiction. Like, if you read moments like this, he's stoned on the couch when he's talking to Warren. He's
In
just,
the coffee shop.
he's literally, he's like high as a kite. He's barely putting 2 sentences together. He's chatty, and then he drifts off. And we knew that we were going to deal with this in Where the Sun Rises. Again, how we dealt with it. You know, that letter that Maele writes to Adam, and when she, you know, she leaves that little letter on his, like, all that stuff just happened organically as we were writing. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to get the story to this point. But that's where, you know, if you believe in the Holy Spirit, like, that's where the Spirit kind of enters into the story and starts telling the story for you. And that's where Anna's experiences and my life experiences started to like find release in the story, where we're like, oh, I want to talk about this moment, and wouldn't that be amazing if we can. And then all of a sudden we find all the pieces, the logic in the story to tell that part of the story. And it was healing. As a writer, it was healing. As a reader, it was healing. I remember getting pages from Anna, and there were times where my eyes would just well up, or, you know, I would just be like, I'm so lucky to be able to, you know, one of my favorite things that I keep reading at all the live readings is where Adam throws up at the feet of the giant, you know, and it's this, because he is suddenly just shockingly aware of how he has treated people in his life like objects, and he is just he's poleaxed by it, and he's sickened by it in that moment. And the fact that Maele is pure grace and pure forgiveness and love in a way that he's never experienced before. You know, when they're floating on the river and he confesses, and she's like, you know, she just accepts him for who he is. And it was our chance to go deeper. And what we were, you know, Anna and I, we knew that we wrote a very frothy escapist novel with moments like this. We knew what it was. We had an objective to get people to Hawaii during a pandemic. We wanted people to escape. And with this book, we were asking for a deeper investment. We were asking for people to settle in, to emotionally sort of bring a little more to the table. And it's a little more of a complex read. It's a deeper read. We're going to ask a little more of our reader, you know, but what we're hoping for is at the end of the journey, if they choose to take it with us, it's just going to be infinitely deeper in the reward. So that's kind of our hope.
Right. That was my experience. I'm going to read a little part of Maele's letter that she leaves behind, because I pulled that out. The only way forward for us is if you realize how much you can give to this world by choosing to live. That masking your pain or your struggles with drugs and alcohol will only serve to end your life. And because I'm terribly frightened at that thought, I must do what I can to protect myself. I suffered with you these past 8 months, and I didn't even know why I felt so brokenhearted. That's not fair. I don't care if you sell a script. All I care about is you. I want to be here for you, but you have to do your part. When you do, I'll be here waiting. I loved this so much because it was radical kindness, because sometimes radical kindness I think always involves telling the truth. But radical kindness also sometimes involves walking away and saying no.
Yes.
And we have sometimes been thought that we have to kind of stick around and suffer together and be a punching bag, or get dragged down. And what Maele did was say, I love you so much, but I can't actually carry you up this mountain. You're the only one that can climb to the top of the mountain. But when you decide to, I'm going to be right at the top waiting for you.
Right.
Because I love you so much that I have to actually walk away, which is the most kind thing that I could do.
Yeah, which is a courageous love, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard love.
And we showed how
Maele,
she suffered through it, right? So, yeah.
Yes. I love this. Samantha says, moments was like dipping your toes in the water, and where the sun rises was more like taking that leap and jumping in.
I saw that comment too. I was trying to heart it from Samantha. Hey, Sam, our future friend.
Very good,
Yeah,
Samantha. I love that. You guys should continue to use that on your press tour.
Yeah. Yes, it's great.
That's a quote. Put that on the book.
I know. Put it in the book. Yeah, I really loved that. And I to go back to, the issue of trauma and fear and how debilitating it could be. And also it ties right into addiction. We are all masking in some way, shape, or form, whether it's drugs or alcohol or food or Instagram, or being in everybody else's business but not tending to our own business. Like, there are 100 different ways that we cover and we mask. And so the other thing I learned about what she said is that it's only going to serve to end your life. And even if being on Instagram too much, right, it might not end your life physically, but it just might end your life spiritually.
Yeah.
Right. And so
it's
it's a really good takeaway for all of us to really sit with what are the things in our lives that, where are we in pain? Where are we struggling, and how are we masking and not telling the truth about it? Because it's only going to end poorly for us, even if it's just not getting to experience all the love and life that life has to give, right?
That's right. I talk to my kids about this idea of the sin and this idea of life, and sin is like little tiny slices that are death, little slices of death, right? And it doesn't matter what the sin is, if it's a lie or if it's too much time on the Instagram or whatever. And the death is the death of relationship. And if you're a spiritual person, it's the death of the relationship between you and whoever you conceive of as God. But if you're not a spiritual person, it really does become the death of the relationships between you and the people in your lives. Yes. And for example, the three of us are friends. We're friends in real life. And that's why, Nikki, you're always so gracious, and you spend your time, and you are as busy as we are, and you're jumping on. And because we're in relationship with one another, and Anna and I are in relationship with one another. But if I started lying, and if I started stealing, and if I started if I started sinning against you guys, it destroys that relationship, and it would ultimately end in the death of it. And I think that's where we wanted to tell a love story where when love is done right, it brings life into things. It breathes life into things. It opens the door for life, and that light dries all of the sin. So Adam, he's locked up in sin. He is willing to break his relationship with his dad, his brother. He doesn't want to love. He even says, like, I wasn't going to fall in love until I was in my late 30s. He wanted ambition. He wanted all the things that the world, you know what I mean? 38. Yeah.
He said that was such an interesting,
specific.
he was so specific. 38.
So cute. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he meets love in the form of Maele, and his whole life is he just about faces, and he can't help it. And I love that we also tied Maele to his past when he was innocent and pure and before all the darkness settled in. And it was almost a fantasy of this girl that he saw from the beach, and he imagined how amazing her life was. And they didn't know each other, but
yeah.
I love a love that can change a life, which I think all love can. And I think that's the ultimate love story to tell.
It is. Yvonne says one of the hardest things is to sit with our pain. We try to do anything to avoid it. The only way to get through it is by going through. It's so true. And I've also learned, Chris, to piggyback off of what you just said is what I have found in life is the more transparent you can be, it's so important, because like you said, in your relationships, if you start doing these little things that chip away, that like you said, what did you call the sins, or like
little slices of death.
Yeah, they're like these little paper cuts that you do to the heart, but if you make enough of them, you can sever, right? And so it is about transparency and authenticity. And I always say, if I can put my head on the pillow and know that I tried my best in every decision that I made to do right by not just myself, but the people that I love, it was a good day. It's not really about how much money I made. I don't think about those things when I put my head on that pillow. I think, how did I treat the people I love most in my life? Was I good to myself? I think about that stuff. And I think that I just think that is kind of throughout this entire novel and the stories that you tell. I have questions.
Can I add to it real quick?
Please.
Can I add? So, I just was coaching my kids' team, and it was our last game of the season. And I read them the poem "Gather Ye Rosebuds While Ye May," for time is, because it's running by. We're all marching to the grave pretty quickly. And I said, the world remembers who wins. The world keeps record. The world keeps track. Who's the winner? Who takes the championship ring home? But there is this other frequency that doesn't care if you win or lose, but how you did it, how you played the game. And I think, as long as you're living this life of character and integrity, right? Like whether it's a flag football game or anyway, to your point, it just what you were saying just made me think of that. And it's a little off topic, yet still all in. I know. I was like,
that's wonderful. Guys, we're going to start today with a poem. That's beautiful.
I really did. I said, you guys, I'm an actor. Sorry, your coach is an artist, but I'm home today. It's our last game.
I want to leave a little bit more time for questions for other people, but I have 2 questions specifically for each one of you that I'm curious about. Anna, let's start with you. How many books have you written at this point?
6.
I was going to say 7, but I thought it was 7, but okay, 6.
You did. It's 8, Anna. As 6 is Christine Bray, and 2 is Anna Gomez.
6 is Christine Bray, and then 2 is.
Yeah, you've written 8 books, girl.
I mean, I was thinking 7. I was trying to do my research, but 8, that's incredible. Is there an idea that you have, right, that you're scared to write? Is there something that's bubbling inside of you that or maybe it has been for a long time. Maybe like I have a couple of those stories in me where I'm like, oh, that's really scary to do that because it's so personal. Do you have a story like that inside of you that's been sitting, dancing around, but that it's a little bit scary to maybe dive into?
The general answer is no. I just write. I write.
That's amazing.
No, I mean, I throw it out there, and the great thing, I think the thing that I always have to remember, and I'm very grateful for, is this is not a full-time gig for me. So I don't have the pressure of trying to please people or write a formula that will help me financially, or, these things happen organically. Like the success of Chris and I, our books, like we did it because we loved the story. We loved, we wanted to tell it, and we loved the characters, and we built this world. It's the same with my other books. I think I mean, the last book I wrote was The Year I Left, and it was really about depression and a woman going through depression. And it wasn't well received. No one wanted to read about depression, or we were still in the, it was hard for me to even get speaking gigs. Nobody wanted me up there talking about women going through depression and marriage and all that. And everyone was judging about, cheating and all this. But that happens, and people go through that. So I think that was probably the most fearless thing I did, the most fearless thing I wrote. And I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep writing. And, I'm lucky Chris has approved all the sad things I want to write about. So it's just.
By the way,
I was gonna say Anna came out of the gate swinging. I was like, you asked the question. The dancer finds her way onto the keyboard with Anna because she's written about losing her mother. She's written about the book that she's talking about really opens up all the wounds.
Well, Gail says such a great book. Samantha says, I loved that book. And Susie said, but it was so good. So,
Thank you guys.
And I love your response. And I'm not going to stop. Like, even if it wasn't received in the way your books normally are received, I'm not going to stop doing what my heart calls me to do in the stories that I tell. Because what I do think is really important is it fun sometimes to sit and read about a book about depression? Like, if you're trying to escape, maybe not, but there might be, 10,000 people out there that needed to read
that story. Right? Yeah.
That book, that journey. And I love Geraldine. Speak your truth. That's right, girl. And then Gail says, please don't stop, Anna. Your stories touch us all. So,
even if it's one person.
That's right. Even if it's
one person that reads that book in a whole other country on the whole other side of the planet, and you can save a life with your story, because ultimately stories are life-giving, and we find ourselves in them, and that's why representation is so key. That's why this partnership is so beautiful, because Anna is a proud Filipino female. She's smart. She's, you know what I mean? And I'm this white guy from Nevada, but we get to join forces and we get to reinforce each other's. I get to tell my white guy from Nevada stories and my Hawaii experience, and she gets to tell her Filipina from, the Philippines. I mean, we have amazing stories, and when we combine them, then we get to tread into these areas that we may not otherwise get to tread into, and we support each other, and we build up on those stories. And there's so much power in stories. So to that point, if Anna's books even reach one person and they go, that's me, and I can live another day, you've won the day. You've won it. Yes. You've won the game.
I can talk about trauma all day long, which makes me maybe at a dinner party not the most fun person.
checking the guest list. You're like, Nikki, what kind of night do we want?
It's not going to
bring her
fun.
Back in October.
Because if you ask me how I'm doing and I'm in a place, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's just who I am. I'm going to be like, not great. I'm really sad right now. Just really sad. And it's like, if you're at the dinner party.
But I think that's the beauty of our friendship with Chris too, is we're like that. Like, there are days when we're just like, okay, we're pissed at everybody.
Yes.
Oh
And
man, Anna, I have called up, and Anna's the greatest buffer in the universe. And I'll be like, what is this? Why did this happen? Did this happen? Blah, blah, blah. Like we got an edit, like one of our first passes on the edit, and I was like, if they, and I was this fury, and Anna was like, I hear you, Chris. I hear you. Let me, and she writes these amazing emails on my behalf, and then I've talked to Anna off the ledge. I'll get these texts, and I'll be like, Anna, I think tomorrow morning you're gonna feel a little differently about this. Let's just give it a night, and then like she'll be like,
I'm so pissed.
because all of a sudden and so it's so important to have, and really there is nothing like artistic collaboration to bond two people, because friendship without purpose is wonderful in and of itself, because there is no expectancy of return. You're just like in friendship, and the expectancy of return is you want to continue that friendship. They make you laugh, they make you feel good, they're friends, they're always bodies in the seat at events. You need people in your life like that. Marriages are their own collaborations, and they're very specific, and you're raising a family, and you're basically the co-CEOs of but when you're in an artistic collaboration, you're brought together, you've got this very specific goal in mind, you're accomplishing something, you reap the benefits of that thing. It's a really wonderful, there's a lot of pleasure in it. I'm talking to somebody, you've got an artistic collaboration. We're actually involved in one, Nikki. We get to start one here pretty soon, next year. We won't let the cat out of the bag.
That's right. We're letting the cat out of the bag. You heard it here first, people. I don't like to create alone. I've actually learned that about myself. Maybe there will be something down the road that a book, there is something I've been chipping away at on my own in terms of a book, but I'd rather create in collaboration with people. It's so much more fun. But as Chris was saying, it's just the experience of it. Yes, you produce this product, whether it's a script or a movie or a book or whatever it is, but the experience that you have along the way, that's the thing that you die with. That's the thing that you take home with you, and there's nothing like it. It's so beautiful. Chris, I'm going to pivot to you because I get this question all the time, so I thought I'd ask you. I get asked, when it comes to acting and writing, right? Is there one I love more than the other? I get that. And then one more question on top of it. Does one fulfill you in ways that the other does not?
I'll start with your second question. Absolutely. Writing fulfills me in ways that acting can never touch. And acting does things for me that writing, you can never touch it. It's like they're two separate ways to tell stories. And both of them are deeply pleasurable and juicy on their own. Writing is, you're going to write something and a lot of it's bad. Like a lot of it on first pass, just like, ooh. And you go back and you polish it and you cut things and you build, and you really do build a story. Acting is just, you're in the moment and you either nail it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. And you're acting with your...
You have to come out of the gate just fighting.
Yeah, you're ready. Yeah, and so your eyes are telling the story, and I love this audience, and I really have enjoyed working for home because we've taken an unexpected formula and flipped it on its head. And when you add layers and when you add depth and you really go for it, like I just did this movie with Marisol Nichols, and there's a couple scenes in there and people have been so sweet, like on Twitter and Instagram about the performance, because when you give, and all of it doesn't have to be with the words, it can be with a look, it could be with a little difference in your face, and that's only achievable through acting. And when you can communicate, if you're present, if you're good at it, but it's something that it's its own skill set, that writing, it takes a chapter to hit that emotion, whereas it can take a look if you're a good actor to knock it in. And so, I grew up as an actor. I love acting. I remember sitting with Meghan Markle one night. She's like, "You're a lifer, aren't you?" And I was like, "What does that mean?" She's like, I was like, "I'll be doing this when I'm 80, if God willing, if I got this, the air in my lungs and the blood in my veins and the strength in my bones, I'll do this until I'm an old man. But writing has been the greatest gift that Anna handed me that I've never, ever dreamed I'd have. Like, she has been my champion. She's been my mentor. She said, just write. I mean, I was terrified, Nikki. I was like, what if I'm just absolutely terrible? And Anna was like, don't worry about it. Just send me your chapter. And I started sending her chapters, and she was like, these are so good. These are so good. And she just encouraged me. And even if they weren't, she made me,
They
she
were
built my
good.
confidence up enough where off to the races. So, I mean, they're both, again, they're their own animals, but they're equal. They're like having two prized stallions in the stable. You don't want to love one more than the other, and they both run their own races, you know?
I completely agree with you. 100%. All right, guys, we're getting close to an hour. And unless anybody has any more questions, I want to wrap this up with a quote from the novel and then a question for both of you to answer. So this is at the beginning of the novel, and I cut out a few pieces just to tighten it up. But you write, in Oahu, the sunrise was a sacred time. Sure, sunset was when traditional Hawaiians sang the ali, and blew the conch to gather their mana. But beginnings, those were what really mattered. The sunrise had always been a symbol of birth and reawakening. So my question to you both, first of all, I agree with that wholeheartedly. What is being birthed or reawakened in you right now? What are you just at the beginning with? Anna, you go first.
A lot of things. I think I think with everything that happened and the journey that we've taken, it's a rebirth for me in terms of just valuing every day and the journey that it's taken us, the journey that we've gone through together writing this book, the journey that I've gone through in life in the last year. It's really just opened my eyes to just living in the moment, actually. So to me, it's just, I've been repeating that to my husband and my family. She's like, you know what? Let's not worry about making money. Let's just make memories. And so we've been,
Oof, that's good.
yeah. So
that's good, and I'm sure.
And you've been living hard with your family. It's fun to watch that your group. I can't wait to meet everybody on the 1st. I get to go to Chicago and meet everybody in person. I think that there's a birth. It's funny that you asked this, and it's funny that it comes in the tail end of asking about acting and writing. I think I'm on the beginning verge of a whole new phase as an actor. I think that there's an explosion that's about to happen in my life that I feel, and it's putting away one set of tools and allowing a new set of tools to take over. And I just feel it in my bones. It's this funny little feeling. And it's weird, Nikki, because I think you and I are very similarly built in that there's long runway people and there's short runway people. And it's good to be it's good to be a long runway person in life. I think Anne is somebody who, based on her creative output, is a long runway person where, it's good and it keeps getting better. So yeah.
I see that too, Chris. I see that for you. I honestly do. I do. I think it's just the beginning. But you got to finish the 5 books, whether or not.
5 books. We're going to get them finished. Well, you know what? The irony, Anna, is that these books are. Is this movie? Nikki, you know Michael Goldstein. So Michael is producing Moments Like This. We've got Aaron Brown Thomas, who is adapting Moments Like This into a screenplay as we speak. And the movie is going to be, we're running and gunning for a theatrical release. We want to make like a movie for February release and have a romantic movie for adults to go see. And we would love these books to become a trilogy of films so that you'll watch this story unfold, and so we have these huge dreams, and it all sort of wraps into So yeah, it's a good question, because it does feel like we're on the beginning of a new chapter.
And I love that. I love that you use the sunrise as a symbol of that, because I think we all can go outside every once in a while and watch the sunrise and ask ourselves, what is just reawakening in me? What is actually awakening in me? Where am I at the beginning of something? And allow yourself to actually get excited about that, because sometimes beginnings can be scary. But if we have courage to open ourselves up to it, beginnings can also be really exciting, right?
Totally.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too. It's if you are. I just watched Where Hope Grows this weekend with David DeSanctis and Reno, and my character in it. He goes to AA, and they talk about every day. You know, one day at a time, one day at a time. And there's this idea of like every day is a new day to start again. And if you've been hurt, or if you've failed, or if you're in pain, every morning is a chance to try again. And I love that there is this promise that we get every day. And as writers, Anna and I had the task of trying to pull all the poetry out of a sunrise. Like, what does it mean? Like, and it's so important. And it's 12 stabs at it through the book. I feel like, because it really is like, and even the wonder of it, that if you wake up and you see how that sky is painted, like, you can't help but feel hope if you're, even when you're hopeless, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with us and to talk, to spend an hour of your time. Thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight, for choosing to spend the hours of your day with us. And for all of you who haven't read Where the Sun Rises, I can't wait for you to get your copy. Let Chris and Anna both know what you thought, how it made you feel. And final question that was up top. It's the only question I did miss. When shall we expect book 3?
Anna?
We hear 2024.
Oh,
So
you got
If
it.
I have my way with it, well, it'll be February of 2024, but we'll see. You can never, there's so many shipping delays, and we had to like print on different stock of paper because there's paper like shortages, and I mean, it's really wild times right now, but hopefully February of 2024.
Fantastic.
we'll hold each other to that, February 2024, which means that you have to keep going.
Yes. Well, Chris, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You're an author.
Thank you, Nikki.
Incredible. You've done it once and now twice. Anna, it's so lovely to have this time with you. I will be sending you love every single day. Please be gentle with yourself. And I can't wait to see the stories that you tell next. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Nikki.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah, you crushed it, girl.
Thank you, everybody.
You got it.
Bye.